To me, it feels like Mazda is trying to be 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid Premium Plus. For those who don't know, I am a happy owner of a 2023 Turbo Premium Plus CX-50. I have many reviews of that vehicle on the channel, but today the question is, how does the CX-50 Hybrid compare? New for this model year, a lot of people are excited because one of the issues with my Turbo Premium Plus is it has pretty poor fuel efficiency. Despite the ratings, I'm actually getting closer to low to mid 20s with mixed use, and depending on how you drive, you might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. With the hybrid, compared to both the naturally aspirated and the turbocharged variants, we're going to be getting like 10 to 15 more mpg. We're shooting around 38 combined. Keep in mind that on the highway, it's going to be a little bit lower, a little bit higher in the city, because on the highway, it's all the engine and not the electric motors and the battery. But one of the reasons I'm particularly excited for this vehicle is that my girlfriend is in the market for a new car. And I love driving my CX-50 Turbo Premium Plus. And I figured, hey, maybe, she cares more about the fuel efficiency. I care more about the, the power, the driving dynamics. This might be a good happy medium since, let's be real, whenever she and I are driving together anywhere, she's riding passenger princess anyways. Now, the way they've positioned the hybrid CX-50 is actually between the naturally aspirated and the turbocharged. For each engine option, again, the naturally aspirated, the hybrid, and the turbo, you can have different trim levels. So the highest trim level on any level is a Premium Plus. The naturally aspirated Premium Plus goes for about 37K MSRP. The hybrid Premium Plus goes for about 40K MSRP, and the Turbo Premium Plus goes for 43K MSRP. Now, it's not just the engine that's changing. Now, from the exterior, you will notice a few key differences. Most obviously, you have the hybrid badging, but look at the wheels. These wheels are specific to the CX-50 Hybrid, and these are 19s rather than the 20s that come on the Turbo Premium Plus. Now, in terms of the design of the wheel, I definitely prefer the Turbo Premium Plus, which is the same wheels that I have on my 23. They've kept it the same for the 2025 Turbo Premium Plus as well. Those are 20s, and we're gonna get to the suspension differences, but keep in mind, smaller wheels, different design, and more tire sidewall. Some other subtle things, the car is actually 1.3 inches taller in total height, yet has half an inch less of ground clearance. So because of the hybrid powertrain and various components, they had to extend the car vertically ever so slightly. Now, the cargo area is actually the same. Despite that, there's no hump for the battery and such, but their rear legroom is far reduced. Here, it is 2 inches less than in the regular. I am 6'1" sitting. Actually, I'll sit up behind myself on this side. And whereas in the normal CX-50 I can fit, here my knees are pushing in. Also, you'll notice no rear heated seats in the hybrid Turbo Premium Plus, which you do get in the Turbo. And also, if you do install a tow hitch like I have on mine, the hybrid can tow 1,500 pounds versus the 3,500 of the Turbo Premium Plus. And as you can see here, this is MSRP 40K. We have the wind chill pearl color on the exterior. It's a nice pearly white. And we have the black leather interior. And the interior is a familiar place to be. By the way, shout out to CardinaleWay Mazda out here in Las Vegas. It's where I get my CX-50 serviced, and they're the ones who are loaning us the CX-50 for a review. Getting into the interior, largely the same, right? With the Premium Plus, you do also have your sunroof, panoramic, with, of course, the bar in the middle. This one has the black leather interior with the brown accents versus mine, which is the terracotta leather interior. It's essentially the colors reversed. The seats are actually way firmer than my car, but I don't think they actually change the seats year to year. I think it's just that the seats, they break in over time. This is a brand new car. We have 87 miles on the odometer, and I think the seats just haven't worn in yet, which is why they do feel very firm when you first get in. In my car, I don't have any issue, and I think that's just because over time, you get used to it. A few notable differences. First of all, rather than having the RPM, you have this power charge gauge over here. And even the shift lever is not the same. This is actually like a Toyota shift lever compared to the one that we have in the Turbo Premium Plus. So let's go through the three different engine options. The naturally aspirated engine is a 2.5 liter inline 4 that's making 187 horsepower, 185 pound-feet of torque. Now, the naturally aspirated trims, they are lighter than both the turbo and the hybrid. Those weigh around 3,700 pounds, but even with that lighter weight, it still feels very sluggish, making sub 200 horsepower and sub 200 pound-feet of torque. One level up, we move to this, the hybrid, which is actually a Toyota power unit. This is made in Alabama, shared a factory between Mazda and Toyota. They're making the Corolla Cross over there. Mazda's making the CX-50, and this is powered by the hybrid RAV4 powertrain. That's a 2.5-liter inline 4 paired with some electric motors with a nickel metal hydride battery that gives you 219 horsepower, 163 pound-feet of torque. It does feel notably quicker than the regular naturally aspirated. I think a big part of that is because of the extra torque you get with the electric motors. And while the hybrid does feel a little bit peppier than the naturally aspirated, it is nowhere near as quick as the turbo, which feels properly fast for a vehicle in this segment. And then finally, with the turbo, you have the 2.5-liter inline 4 that makes 256 horsepower with 93 octane fuel, 227 with 87 octane, and 320 pound-feet of torque with 93 octane, 310 pound-feet with 87 octane. But one thing I think is interesting is that the fuel efficiency here is actually a little bit lower than the RAV4, despite it sharing the same exact powertrain. Let's get this into drive, and notably, we do not have paddles. And I get it, you don't need paddles in an eCVT. This is not a 6-speed automatic transmission like in the Turbo Premium Plus, but their gear shift does let you use these simulated gears, do simulated downshifts to do engine braking, and there are other hybrids with paddles to also let you adjust that engine braking. We also are lacking a few other features. I mentioned there's no rear heated seats. There's no heated steering wheel here. The button where you would normally press that is blank. There is no 360 cam, which now automatically makes this a deal breaker for my girlfriend since she is so reliant on that in my CX-50. You of course get the reverse cam, but no 360 here. And there are some other things missing too, like the dimming side view mirrors. Not sure why they removed so many little nice touches. Also, the headlights with the Turbo Premium Plus are active, so they'll actually turn with you. But again, they've removed a lot of these small little features to the hybrid version, and I'm not sure why. Maybe cost cutting because of the collaboration with Toyota. I don't know. There's some reason there. Although I am glad that they went with Toyota for the hybrid powertrain. I mean, these guys have already developed a brand new inline 6 in the CX-70 and CX-90, which, you know, in terms of Mazda's size as a company, the budget for that and then developing a new bespoke hybrid powertrain, that would be an issue. So I think it was a very intelligent move to go to Toyota and get their powertrain, the leaders in the industry when it comes to hybrids. But this is their 4th gen. Keep that in mind. It's not the most recent 5th gen Toyota hybrid powertrain. This is the prior gen, and you're going to notice a few differences there. It's a little bit rattly, a little bit noisy, and you do have an eCVT, which most of the time when you're driving and puttering around town, you're not going to notice. But when you do get on the power, which I'll show you in a second, it's just going to hang the revs really high, and you get that rubber band effect that we don't really like in CVTs. Still have that super satisfying indicator noise in the CX-50. And you'll notice that the indicator lights, both from the interior and exterior, they turn on bright, but then slowly fade away. And as I explained in a previous video right up here, they say it's inspired by the EKG, but I went a little bit nerdy on you guys, whipped the MD out, and taught you guys about why it's actually more of like a ultrasound Doppler or arterial line rather than an EKG, but that's explained in that other video. Now going back to the weight, the naturally aspirated was 3,700 pounds roughly, the turbo is 3,900 pounds, the hybrid is 4,000, and as a result, they've had to increase the spring rates. But keep in mind that between the 2023 model year to the 2024, 23 was the first model year, the one that I have, to 24, they softened the spring rates and lightened up the steering wheel. And the reason they did that is many people complained that the ride was too stiff and the steering was too heavy, which is absurd. Even my mom finds the steering and the comfort totally adequate. But anyways, people were complaining, so they softened it up a little bit. What they did here, because the hybrid is heavier, is they had to increase the spring rates. So again, 2023, it was stiff. 24, they softened it up a little bit, which I think found a good balance of comfort while still maintaining a lot of that dynamic nature of the CX-50. And then now with the CX-50, they had to stiffen it up again. And it still rides very close to the other CX-50 variants. it's definitely not as comfortable as that 2024. The 2024 is a bit more comfortable, a bit more supple than the 23, which again, mine is the harshest, the most sporty, but is a little bit more polarizing because a lot of people don't like that. But this feels somewhere in the middle, where you do have a bit more higher frequency. Keep in mind, all of these, all the different powertrain versions have a torsion beam rear suspension, which does make some of the initial impacts feel a little bit more harsh. But I think part of it too is maybe the center of gravity has changed. Higher spring rates, additional weight, and you're feeling a bit more higher frequency than what you're getting in the regular 24 or 25 refined suspension. The other thing that's really disappointing though is how the driving dynamics have changed, and part of that is going to be the spring rates and the suspension tuning, but part of that is how they've recalibrated the electric power steering, and part of that is the fact that there is no physical connection between the front to rear axles. In the Turbo Premium Plus, as an example, it is a front-wheel drive based all-wheel drive system, but based on losing traction, based on your throttle input, based on steering angle, based on a lot of factors, it can send up to 50% of the torque to the rear. And in that car, you just don't ever get torque steer. Maybe it's happened a couple times, and if so, super minor. And it feels more dynamic. You have GVC, their brake vectoring technology. It makes it feel much more dynamic, much more competent. Whereas here, you don't have a connection between front to rear axle, just electric motor in the back, and the gas engine only powers the front wheels. But the issue there is that when you get on the power, you are much more likely to experience torque steer here. You also don't have that GVC, and the way that they've calibrated the steering, mid-corner, once you're in a corner and you've set, it feels fine. It actually feels very similar to a CX-50, Turbo Premium Plus, or naturally aspirated. But that initial turn-in, and also setting back to center after exiting a turn, there's something off. There's a little bit of slop, there's a little bit of vagueness, there's a little bit lack of connection. And the thing that I absolutely adore about my CX-50 that no other vehicle in the segment does is that it makes it fun to drive. As someone who has explicitly owned sports cars, and then I turned 30, I was like, hey, time to be an adult, get a little CUV. I love that about my CX-50. It makes driving fun, even though I'm not in a sports car. And here, they've calibrated a lot of things well. My Turbo Premium Plus is not perfect. The brake pedal is a little bit too mushy. Same with the throttle, is not quite as immediate. And if you put into power mode, now your shifts are gonna be, the shift logic has changed. And as a result, your fuel efficiency suffers even more than it already is because it's already quite low. So the inputs there aren't perfect. And I actually prefer the brake pedal feel here. It's a little bit more firm immediately, although the transition point in this 4th gen hybrid powertrain from Toyota is really excellent, but not perfect. So getting between regen to regular braking, you do sometimes notice the transition point. But the inputs are well calibrated, well dialed, well balanced. But a lot of that X factor that makes Mazdas so special to drive and so engaging, even their CUVs, it's missing here. And I don't mean it's completely gone and it drives like a total NPC mobile, but if the 2023 CX-50 was at this far end of the spectrum in terms of engaging, fun CUVs, and the 2023 dialed it back just a little bit, made the steering a little bit lighter and the suspension a little bit softer, but still had really good steering, feedback and feel and weighting. This one's like way over here. Yeah, the steering mid-corner is good and you still have some feedback, not the same level of feedback. The connectedness that you feel with the other trims is very much lacking here. And I feel like they took the best and worst of both the CX-50 and the RAV4 and just combined them. So yes, you have the fuel efficiency from the RAV4, not quite to the same degree, but pretty close to the RAV4 fuel efficiency. But you also get like the rattliness of the engine and some of the limitations with that 4th gen hybrid powertrain, notably things like torque steer. And as I get on the power, you can hear that rubber band. And then on the Mazda side, I was hoping they would keep that magic alive. They would keep all the the incredible steering and the fun chassis dynamics of the vehicle, but they've also watered that down. To me, it feels like Mazda is trying to be more things to more people. They're trying to go more mainstream, and I'm not sure if I really like that. They're getting the RAV4 powertrains. Sure, you have, you know, industry-leading reliability with the Toyota powertrain. You're getting that fuel efficiency that a lot of people prioritize, but you're losing out on some of the magic that makes Mazda, Mazda. They've watered down the other components. Like, in my mind, this was gonna be Mazda suspension, chassis tuning, steering, inputs, etc., with just Toyota powertrain. But they've also changed the steering. They've also changed the suspension tuning. They've changed the way this car handles so that it feels not quite like a CR-V or a RAV4, but directionally it's heading there rather than sticking true to what the other CX-50s drive like and feel like. And I'm not sure why that's the case. Surely a strategic decision that my little simpleton mind doesn't understand. But if I'm being honest, I'm finding myself a little bit disappointed. I was excited. I wanted this to be my girlfriend's next vehicle, but it loses out on a lot of the magic, a lot of the fun that makes the CX-50 so fun to drive, at least in my opinion. Keep in mind though, I am first and foremost a driving enthusiast, more so than even a car enthusiast. I love driving sports cars. My other two cars are sports cars. One of them is also a Mazda Miata. So I love Mazda, I love what they're doing, but I care much more about how a vehicle drives. And I think most people who are in the market for this are not like me. I'm just a weirdo. I like my CX-50 because it does drive a bit sharper and is heavier steering and more dynamic than other CUVs. But most people aren't looking for that. Most people in the market want something that is more comfortable and has better fuel efficiency. So maybe Mazda is onto something, and by going this more mainstream route, maybe it helps the company. And if so, I'll be happy for them. But if you're like me and you value the CX-50 because it makes something fun to drive that you think shouldn't be, because let's be real, CUVs are not meant to be fun, then you might want to pass on the hybrid. But tell me what you think with a comment down below. Much love. See you in that next one.